Video game. Okay, roll the outro. To say that the retro and video games have made a comeback is a heavy-handed understatement. Video games have and will always be inherently tied with nostalgia. All eras have their deemed classics, and no matter who you ask, if they play video games, they'll probably have that one game that they remember playing as a kid that's probably old as fuck today. Mine was Moshi Monsters Moshling Zoo. Retro games have skyrocketed in value in the past year alone, especially now that the 20-year infamous nostalgia cycle just rolled over the SNES and Nintendo 64 some years ago. Pixel graphics are practically considered their own genre now. Developers are making games attempting to replicate the styles and even faults of older retro games of the 8-bit and 16-bit era, almost as if it's an art of its own. Shovel Knight blew the door wide open with this, with notably one of the biggest revelations that dated visuals weren't synonymous with bad game design. And Yacht Club Games reinforced what was initially meant as a love letter to 8-bit platformers as an industry classic in game design, even if they weren't the first to do it. And to a degree, indie developers kept that fire alive. With such inexpensive development both in terms of processing power and artistic development, pixel graphics indie games flooded the market. It became an art of its own, and games like The Breach stood side by side with Fire Emblem, XCOM, and Disgaea, if not completely overruling them in their game design. Panzer Paladin is one of those games, and I haven't enjoyed a game this good in forever. Panzer Paladin is a platformer developed and published by Tribute Games and distributed by Limited Run Games. It's a modern 8-bit platformer with a ton of emphasis on the 8-bit aspect. Everything is 8-bit here. The music, the art style, the annoying knockback mechanics that make me want to pull my hair out. You play as Flameman or Paladin Grit as you fight monsters appearing across the world, real Pacific Rim stuff. The game's biggest focus is on its weapons. When you're in Grit, you can cycle through breakable weapons of varying range and attack speed. Each weapon also has its own spell, which by breaking it you can trigger it. This could increase your damage, increase your defense, heal you, or even give you wings. Weapons are to a degree a currency of the game, where you gotta choose between which you want to break, which you want to attack with, and which you want to save if a challenge comes. When you run out of them, it can get brutal, so stockpiling them is the way to go and makes it way easier in the long run. They're not impossible to get, but it's also a pain in the ass when you don't have any. Weapons are even used in checkpoints. Otherwise, the checkpoint won't count or activate, and if you take the weapon out of the checkpoint, it'll disappear. I actually love this mechanic. It's not too taxing, but while you can still punch without any weapons, they can become scarce if you're not conservative, making levels difficult to get through smoothly otherwise. And the bosses, of course, are one of the biggest focuses of it all. If you haven't picked it up yet, Panzer Paladin takes some pages out of Mega Man's book, with each level themed around the boss and region, all leading to a final showdown at the end. For the most part, it really does this great, and the bosses are a ton of fun while just a little challenging. The checkpoint system really shows its worth here, where you just keep dying and your weapons keep breaking. You could nab the weapon from the checkpoint to make the fight easier, and lose the safety of respawning right in front of the boss. Or you can keep the checkpoint and run it empty-handed. It's a really satisfying and clever design choice between making it easier or making it easier, relying on your skill or relying on your tools. It's super neat. The boss designs are fantastic as well. For the most part, all of them have a degree of relevance to the region of the world they're based in. You encounter Baba Yaga in Russia, a supernatural entity from Slavic and Russian fairy tale, Medusa in Greece, and Boeoeg. What the wait, what? Okay. Boeoeg. And then there's a dragon, some succubus that there definitely exists hentai of, and a centaur thing. The fights are super smooth and rewarding, if not just simple for the game's design, with telegraphed attack that give you openings to dodge and read, while also being slightly challenging, coming from someone with the mental capacity of a 6-year-old in the body of somebody who has to legally pay taxes. As Flame, the mech pilot within, you can actually hop out of Grit and walk around and do your own thing, equipped with a fairly entertaining whip. Flame is honestly one of the most fun aspects of this game, swinging off of hooks and running through tight, although incredibly short segments. It's a shame that the majority of the game she's practically barely used to her full extent. Her grapple whip is a blast to play, and segments where you're out of Grit are honestly the better parts of the platforming experience, but the only reason you'll ever have to do this is either if you're forced to, for the obligatory minuscule segment of the level that usually only lasts like 20 seconds, or to get some more health for your mech form. It is a huge lost opportunity to give the game an extra kick, especially when the underutilized character is 10 times more fun than the obligatory one. If you're clinically insane, you can definitely run it solo without Grit, minus a few situations, but it's inevitable that you'll need the extra health. The grapple swinging segments are tight and exciting, and also remind me a ton of Double Cross, another indie platformer I played that I really should make a video on. Regardless, Panzer Paladin is a pretty fun game otherwise. It itched my need for a platformer in a time where I was just playing the weirdest fucking games, and I would totally recommend it. Good game until my save deleted itself, the fuck.